Hello everyone. Today I will explain you the basics of chess and how to win at that game. So the first thing that we have to keep in mind is of course how to put the pieces on the board. If you already know that, you can skip a little bit. But the rooks are in the corner, the knights and the bishops and the queen and the king looks like that, and the pawns are like that. Of course, the king can move one square in any direction. The queen, move by any numbers in every direction, diagonally, in straight lines. It's how you want, but it's actually forced. The rook is only in main lines, the bishops are only on diagonals, and notice how the bishops are on two colors, which means that you have to either play on the dark squares or on the light squares during your chess games. And actually you also have a knight which moves in an L shape, like that, then like that, and he just moves in L, you know, uh, like that, like that. It's important to keep that in mind because if you don't know how the pieces move, you can actually suffer a lot from all of that. Of course, the objective when you're playing chess is to checkmate the opponent's king, meaning the king is in a position to be captured, it means check, and there is no legal move to escape capture. And that is something very important to keep in mind, of course, for uh, you know first chess players or to new chess players. Of course, there is some other rules. For example, if the pawn managed to go over here, you can either do a queen, a rook, a bishop, or a knight. You cannot promote it to a king, sadly enough, but you have to know that. And during your first move, you can either move the pawn from one square or two squares, which means that, let's say now it is my turn again. I cannot move from two squares. I have to move only one square away. And by the way, if I go one square, I cannot double again. I have only one chance to actually move my pawns two times. It is the first time a pawn moves, he can move from two squares. There is again a very interesting rule. It is something, the so-called move en passant. Boom, d5. Black is super duper smart because, yeah, he thinks that I will actually march forward and win. But boom, en passant. It is a very strange rule. I cannot explain why it exists, but you can just imagine like that. Let's say there are some horse riders, with swords 500-600 years ago. They were fighting and someone is running with his horse. He's running his horse very, very fast. Then you have your sword and you're just, taking this guy with you. But okay, let's say now that d5 you take en passant, it is good. But let's say that instead of taking en passant, for example, you do another move, and it is your turn again, you cannot take en passant anymore, which is normal because you had only one chance to take en passant. En passant, a French word, of course. French people are always there to add some crazy stuff to something very, very logical. But now that you know how to move your pieces in chess, it's actually important to understand some first tips for winning. I will give you three main tips in order to win at chess. But the main tips for winning are very easy. You have to control the center because controlling the central squares gives your pieces more mobility. For example, when you have a pawn over here and over there, you see that your pieces can do a lot of stuff. You're just controlling everything perfectly. And notice how the bishops, the knights, and the pawns are perfect. Everything is already hanging, everything is weak. I'm just showing you a concrete example of what happens when you have the center and when your opponents have none. The second tip that I want to give you is, of course, develop pieces early. It means move your knights and bishops early to open up lines for your other pieces. Let's say we go e4. I saw a game when I was a complete beginner uh, at the Tannes Open in France, Open de la Tour. It was a very nice tournament in which the player with the white pieces was probably rated 1400 and the player with the black pieces was unrated. And the player with the black pieces went a6, okay, bishop c4, b6. The player rated 1400 went queen f3. That's not a joke. c6 was played. And he wanted to checkmate with the queen, and in the last second he took the bishop and checkmated with the bishop. It is a very concrete example which explains that you have to be careful with everything. Take your center, because if you're not taking the center, you're just getting mated like that. Develop your pieces early, because if you do not, you're getting mated like that. Coordinate your pieces, because if you know how to coordinate your pieces, you will be able to checkmate like that. You know, and again, black wasn't mindful of pawn structure. I mean, he just played something so strange over here. Pawns are like a backbone, the backbone of every position in chess. Think about how pawn moves affect the center in your piece's development. You see that e4 is just opening up the line for the bishop and the queen. I mean, queen and the bishop. A6 is doing nothing. B6 is doing nothing. Eventually, bishop b7. But this is yet checkmate. Yeah. You see, you have to pay attention to opponent's move. Always be aware of your opponent's threats and plan. If now he played e6, the position wouldn't have been so bad. Yeah. Of course, when you play chess, there is a clock, which means that you have to be careful on your time management. And of course, something very advanced is the endgame skills. You have to understand that king and pawns can be a draw or winning if you're up a pawn or something like that. But on the top of that, practicing is key. Analyzing your games, win or lose, by the way, doesn't really improve. Analyzing your games will just help you improve very, very fast. Now, I hope that you are ready for the last part of this small video, which is actually 3 nice tips to win a chess easily. You have a first trick from the less advanced to the more advanced stuff. So the first stuff that I want to propose you is just to setting up opening traps. Chess opening sets, the stage for the middle game, and many players try to catch their opponent off guard with some openings traps. And traps involve luring your opponent into a seemingly advantageous position only to checkmate them. You're just surprising them even though they are having a very, very nice position. Successful opening traps require knowledge for specific sequences and patterns. For example, there is a very nice opening trap in the Smith-Morra gambit which goes like that. I don't want to show you too many moves. I just want to show you what happens. Knight f6, which is losing the game because of e5. If you take with the knight, you are just winning the queen. Check. The king cannot stay connected with the queen. It is winning. And if you go pawn takes, you're yet winning because of this. If king takes, then actually knight g5 and you will get forked. And if you go knight takes, then knight b5, king d7, knight e5. And this is just checkmate. King e8 and knight c7 checkmate. So there's a very nice opening trap, 11 moves. But if you manage to understand this pattern, you will just be able to win very fast. You can replay it if you want. Yeah, so it's a tactical and psychological approach that can lead, to a very, very quick victory, especially if your opponent falls into the trap, I'd like to say. But this is, of course, the first trick. The second trick would be to just learning theory by heart, because chess theory is nothing else than played games. So chess theory involves, studying established strategies, openings, and endgames that have been proven to be effective over time. By memorizing key moves and positions, players gain a deep understanding of the game's nuances. This method allows for pieces and strategic play. As players navigate through openings that they know, they are more likely to actually understand more than the simple opening that they just learned by heart. So I can just recommend you that a lot. We can call it a methodical approach. And it is rewarding a lot of people who are actually investing time in studying and memorizing a lot of lines. Now, a third trick would be to actually not know anything about the openings or about theory, but just be good at tactics and strategy. Because let's say you play random moves in the opening, like, okay, this, 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 this is nothing. It has no name. I'm sure it has no name. But let's say you play something like that. If you are stronger than your opponent, you're still going to win because you will be able to actually find a good plan. Knight c3, d4, bishop d3, knight e5, f4, queen f3, queen h3, and going for a very brutal checkmate, for example. Everything is playable. It just depends on what you want. And of course, you have to be strong enough in tactics and strategy to understand this. Winning in chess can be achieved through a combination of many, many approaches. I can just recommend you to mix all of these 3 approaches at the same time. Be good at the openings and at the same time be good at strategy and at the same time being good in openings and everything. But chess is an easy game. You just have to study and take some time on it. Hopefully you enjoyed this small video on how to play and win in chess. Thank you very much. See you in the future. Take care.